CIET NCERT presents the audiobook Curiosity, Textbook of Science for Class 6.
Chapter 10 Living Creatures Exploring Their Characteristics. Page 183. Avdi and Ayush go for a morning walk with their parents. Avdi notices some shells and tries to pick them up. At the top of the page is the image of Avdi and Ayush going for a morning walk with their parents. Her mother advises her not to do so and explains that the shells could be a home to a living snail and is actually a part of its body. Avdi and Ayush wonder how the shell that is not even moving could have a living being inside. Later that day in school, Avdi and Ayush share this incident with their friends. They approach the teacher to understand how a shell, which is not even moving, could be a body part of a living snail. The teacher initiates a discussion in the class on living and non living. Page 184. Activity 10.1. Let us record. We are surrounded by numerous things. Just look around in your classroom and you may find many examples. The pencil that you're holding, the book that you're reading, or the pigeon near the window. 1. List them in Table 10.1 and identify each of them as living or non living on the basis of your understanding in column 2. Table 10.1 Living beings and non living things in our surroundings. In this table, there are 5 columns. The first column is about the name of the object. In the second column, you have to guess if it is living or non living. In the third column, you have to give your reason for the answer. In the fourth column, write the correct answer, and in the fifth column, write the reason for the correct answer. The fourth and fifth column of the table will be filled at a later stage of the chapter. In column 1, the objects that are mentioned include row 1, pencil, 2, book, 3, pigeon, 4, car, 5, plant, and in the last row, you have to add any other name of your choice. 2. Write a reason for grouping them as living or non-living in column 3. Section 10.1. What sets the living apart from the non-living? Why do you think a pencil is non-living but a pigeon is living? What do you think are the differences between living beings and non-living things according to you? What similarities do the identified living beings share with each other? You may have identified movement as one of the similarities among living beings. You have also seen cars moving on the road. Does it mean that a car is living? List the tasks that you can do but a car cannot. Page 185. You are a wonderful example of a living being. Whenever you attempt to group things around you as living or non-living, you can compare them with yourself. Which characteristics help you in differentiating yourself from a car? For instance, a car does not grow. Does it mean it is non-living? Now, which characteristics have you used to classify a car as non-living? Continue your discussion in a similar way to identify the essential characteristics of living beings. What are some common characteristics that make living beings very different from the non-living things? Let us learn about them. Can we consider movement as one of the characteristics to differentiate between the living and the non-living? List 5 things around you that can move on their own. Do you think that all the 5 things that you have listed can be considered as living just because they can move on their own? However, unlike animals, plants do not move from one place to another. Do you consider them as living? Even though plants do not move from one place to another, they do show certain types of movements. Opening of flowers is one example of movement in plants. Another example of movement in plants is seen in insectivorous plants. Insectivorous plants are dependent on insects for their nutrition. Drosera is one of the examples of an insectivore. On the right side of the page is the image of the Drosera plant. Drosera is featured with a saucer shaped leaves having many hair like projections of unequal length with sticky ends. Whenever an insect enters the saucer, hairs move inward and trap the insect with their sticky ends. Try to observe the mechanism of movement in other insectivorous plants. Climbers also wind themselves around any object placed close to them. That means even though plants do not move from one place to another, they do show some movements. Compare yourself with the picture of your childhood. On the right side of the page is the image that shows the growth of a child. Can you wear the dresses that you used to wear 4 years ago? Page 186. No, because you have become larger in size. This is due to growth in your body. Plants and other living beings also grow. Can we consider growth as a characteristic of living beings? Living beings need food, nutrition for their growth and development. List 5 living beings that require food to grow. Now think of a process without which we cannot live. Count the number of breaths that you take per minute after a normal walk, after a run, and after a few dance steps. Record the data and observe. Do you notice any difference in the number of breaths after each situation? Do you notice the process of breathing in other animals like dogs, cats, cows, and buffaloes? Notice the movement of their abdomen when they are taking rest. In the process of breathing, when we inhale, the air moves from outside to inside our body. When we breathe out, the air moves from inside our body to outside. Breathing is a part of a process called respiration. Do plants also respire? There are tiny pores called stomata on the surface of leaves. These pores help plants in taking air in and out. Interact with a senior class student in your school and request if they can demonstrate stomata using a microscope in your class. All living beings respire. Have you noticed white patches forming on shirts around the armpits during summers? These sweat patches are formed due to sweat. The sweat consists of water and salts removed by the body as waste products. Removal of waste products from the body is called excretion. Urine is also formed as a product of excretion in animals. Do you know that plants also excrete? You may notice plants excrete excess water and minerals in the form of small droplets on the leaves. For example, grasses and roses. All living beings excrete. On the left side of the page is the image of water droplets on grass. Let us look at another characteristics. What is your reaction if you unexpectedly step on a sharp object such as a thorn while walking without your shoes, or you accidentally touch a hot cup of tea? Page 187. Stepping on a thorn or touching a hot objects are stimuli. Anything or any event that prompts living beings to respond is called a stimulus. List 3 stimuli, plural of stimulus, and your body's instant response to them. Do plants also respond to stimuli? Yes, plants also respond to stimuli. For example, touch me not, also known as mimosa, chuimui, ladalu, plants fold their leaves when we touch them. On the right side of the page is an image of a touch me not plant. Have you also observed that certain plants fold their leaves after sunset? Specifically, the leaves of certain plants facing each other tend to come together. This can be observed in the sleeping leaves of amla, Indian gooseberry tree. All living beings respond to stimuli. Find a few more plants in your neighborhood which fold their leaves after sunset. Why do the leaves of chui mui and amla plants respond this way? Which stimulus could be responsible for their behavior? Have you seen young ones of cats, dogs, or other animals? List young ones of 5 different animals. Have you seen young ones of any non living things, such as a pencil, a chair, or an electric bulb? All living beings reproduce. Reproduction is the process of producing new ones of one's own kind. Why is reproduction necessary? It is necessary for the continuity of life. When a living being is not able to exhibit all of the above mentioned characteristics, despite the availability of all resources like food, air, and water needed for being alive, it is said to be dead. From the above discussion, we can understand that all living beings share some common characteristics. For example, all living beings show movement, they need food, and they grow. Page 188. They also respire, reproduce, excrete, respond to stimuli, and eventually die. Absence of any one of these features indicate that they are non-living things. Now that you know how to identify a living being, fill up the remaining 2 columns, 4 and 5, of Table 10.1 and complete the activity. In which category would you place a seed, living or non living? Why? Let us explore how a seed germinates to observe some of the essential characteristics in plants. Section 10.2, Essential Conditions for Germination of a Seed. Have you observed a seed germinating? You might have wondered what conditions are required for germination of a seed. What conditions do you think are required for seed germination? How will you investigate whether these conditions have an effect on the germination of a seed? Let us find out by performing Activity 10.2. Let us experiment. 1. Take 4 identical pots filled with garden soil. Sow 4 bean seeds in each pot. Now keep these pots in the following conditions for 15 days. At the bottom of the page is an image that shows the different conditions to which the bean seeds pot are exposed. Pot A. Do not water the soil. Place this pot in direct sunlight. Page 189. Pot B. Add excess water to the soil such that the water is always present above the soil. Keep adding water on a regular basis if water reduces. Place the pot in direct sunlight. Pot C. Keep the soil in this pot slightly moist by adding a moderate amount of water on a regular basis. Place this pot in a dark location. Pot D. Maintain the soil in this pot slightly moist by adding a moderate amount of water on a regular basis. Place this pot in direct sunlight. 2. Indicate the availability of air, sunlight, and water for the seeds in each of these cases in Table 10.2. Table 10.2. Effect of certain conditions on seed germination. In this table, there are 4 columns. Column 1, pot with bean seeds. Column 2, this column is subdivided into 3 parts. Availability of air, sunlight, and water. Column 3, this column is subdivided into 2 parts. Seed germination, the prediction and observation. Column 4, possible reason for the observation. Row 1, A, in direct sunlight and without water. Row 2, B, in direct sunlight and excess water. Row 3, C, in complete dark and moist soil. Row 4, D, in direct sunlight and moist soil. 3. When a seed turns into sprout, it is said to have germinated. Predict whether the seeds in each of the pots will germinate. Record your predictions for each pot kept under different conditions in Table 10.2. Page 190. 4. Regularly observe the pots for 7 to 10 days to check the status of germination of the seeds. Record your observations in Table 10.2. 5. Compare your predictions with your observations. Do you think sunlight is necessary for germination of seeds? Do the seeds in all the pots receive air, water, and sunlight? Is there any pot in which air is not available to the seeds? If so, why is it not available? What happens to the seed in the pot where water is provided in excess? Which seed receives both air and water? Identify the pots where you can notice the germination of seeds. Do your observations match with your predictions? Write possible reasons in favor of your observations in Table 10.2. Based on your observations, state the conditions which favor seed germination. Which of the following are essential for seed germination? Air, water, and sunlight. Compare the available conditions in each pot. Germination of bean seeds require right amount of water and air. Why do seeds require these conditions for germination? Do you think that the absence of one or more of these conditions will affect seed germination? Let us understand how these conditions help in seed germination. The effects of the following conditions have been seen in activity 10.2. Water. Seeds require water for germination. Water enables the seeds to carry out the processes necessary for their growth. The outer covering of the seeds is called seed coat. Water softens the seed coat and helps the tiny embryo inside it to develop into a plant. Air and soil. Seeds need air for germination. They use the air available in the spaces between the soil particles. Moreover, spaces between the soil particles allow roots to grow easily. On the left side of the page is the image of germinated bean seed, where the embryo and the seed coat is shown. Light and or dark conditions. We have learnt that for the bean seeds, presence of light is not essential for their germination. In general, most seeds do not require light for germination, but after germination, sunlight is required for the further growth of the seedling. Page 191. At the top of the page is a box that says, "Do you know?" Some seeds of flowering plants like Coleus, Petunia require light to germinate. Covering these seeds with soil inhibits their sprouting. Seeds of flowering plants like Calendula and Zinnia need darkness to germinate. These seeds should be covered with sufficient soil. In the chapter Mindful Eating, A Path to a Healthy Body, you have learned that human beings need a balanced diet for good health and proper growth. Similarly, plants too need favorable conditions and nutrients for their proper growth and development. What other conditions do you think would affect seed germination? In activity 10.1, what are the characteristics of living beings which made you place plants in living beings? On the right side of the page is a question box that asks, how would you now categorize a seed as living or non-living? Do plants show growth in activity 10.2? Are there any other characteristics of living beings that these plants show? Let us study another characteristic that can be seen clearly in plants: growth and movement. Section 10.3, Growth and movement in plants. How do plants respond to sunlight? Does sunlight affect the direction of growth of different parts of plants? In which direction would the root and shoot of a plant grow and move if the plant is placed inverted? How would you design an activity to find answers to these questions? Activity 10.3. Let us design. 1. Take some bean or gram seeds and allow them to germinate on a moist cloth or a moist tissue paper. 2. Let them germinate until each of them develop into a seedling having a small root and a small shoot. 3. Now take 3 glass beakers or tumblers and label them as A, B, and C. Page 192. 4. Take 3 glass plates and attach a thick blotting paper to one side of each plate using a thick, soft cotton thread. 5. Fix one seedling on each plate using a thick, soft cotton thread, ensuring the plant is not damaged. 6. Now place one glass plate upright with a seedling attached into each of the beaker A and beaker C. 7. In beaker B, arrange the plate such that the shoot of the seedling is directed downward and the root is directed upward. At the center of the page is an image showing the setup of the experiment. In the first beaker, upright plant is kept in sunlight in all directions. In the second beaker, inverted plant is kept in sunlight from all directions. In the third beaker, the upright plant is kept in sunlight from one direction, and there is a hole at the back side of the box. 8. Pour water into all of the 3 beakers to ensure that the seedling in each beaker remains above water level. 9. In each case, let the bottom of the blotting paper get completely wet by soaking in the water. In this way, the seedling will get the moisture from the wet blotting paper. 10. Place beaker A and B in sunlight. 11. Position beaker C in sunlight from one direction. Place a cardboard box in such a way that the seedling gets light from one direction only through a small circular hole. 12. Fill table 10.3 with your predictions and observations. Page 193, table 10.3, growth of root and shoot under different conditions. In this table, there are 4 columns. Column 1 is beaker. Column 2 is direction of sunlight. Column 3 is the direction of the plant. Column 4, direction of growth of root and shoot, is further subdivided into root and shoot, predictions, and observations. Row 1, A. The direction of sunlight is from all directions. The direction of the plant is upright. You need to fill the direction of the growth of root and shoot in the corresponding columns. Row 2, B. The direction of sunlight is in all directions and the direction of plant is inverted. You need to fill the direction of growth of root and shoot in the corresponding column. Row 3, C. The direction of sunlight is only from one direction. The direction of the plant is upright. You need to fill the direction of the growth of root and shoot in the corresponding column. What is the direction of growth of root and shoot in beakers A, B, and C based on your observations? Do your predictions match your observations? What do you conclude from this activity? At the bottom of the page is the image of the experiment showing the direction of growth of root and shoot under different conditions. From the results of this experiment, table 10.3 and the above figure, we note 1. When the plant is kept upright, the root grows downwards and the shoot grows upwards. Page 194. 2. When the plant is kept inverted, the root bends and grows downwards. Also, the shoot bends and grows upwards. 3. When the plant gets sunlight only from one direction, the shoot grows in the direction of the light, while the root continues to grow downwards. After conducting activity 10.3, we can conclude that shoots of a plant grow upward and exhibit movement towards sunlight, but roots of a plant grow downwards. At the center of the page, there is a box that says, Know a scientist. Jagdish Chandra Bose, 1858 to 1937, was an Indian scientist who did some fascinating experiments with plants. On the right side of the page is the image of Jagdish Chandra Bose. He built a machine called a crescograph to record how plants respond to stimuli like light, heat, electricity, and gravity. With this machine, he could measure how fast plants grow. He also showed that plants can sense and respond to stimuli. Section 10.4, Life Cycle of a Plant. We have learnt about conditions required for germination and how plants grow and exhibit movement. Let us now explore the changes a plant undergoes in its whole life. Activity 10.4. Let us explore. 1. Plant a bean seed and provide suitable conditions for its growth. Observe regularly for 3 months. 2. Record your observations in Table 10.4 as and when changes become visible. 3. Note the date when any change is observed. Record answers for each of the following questions. A. How long does it take for any change to occur? Make sketches of various changes that you observe in Table 10.4. Table 10.4. Changes observed during the growth of a plant. In this table, there are 3 columns. Column 1 is date, column 2 is observation, and column 3 is sketches. In the below rows, you need to write the date and the observation that you see and the corresponding sketches for the observations that you see. B. After how many days does the first flower appear? Page 195. 4. After some parts of the flower have dried, can you see any further growth? 5. Which structure do the remaining parts of flower develop into? 6. Can you notice a pod or a fruit with seeds developing from a flower? 7. What happens to the plant after the fruits containing seeds are formed? Go through the observations you recorded regarding the growth of the bean plant in Table 10.4. What changes do you observe after the fruits are formed? Does the plant become yellow and dry even when you continue watering it? Sow the seeds obtained from your bean plant. Watch how the seeds give rise to a new generation of bean plants. Compare the sketches that you have drawn in Table 10.4. A seed grows into a young plant and matures to produce flowers and fruits. The fruit, in this case a pod, contains seeds which gives rise to a new generation of bean plants. The entire process from a seed to a plant and then to the next generation of seeds is called the life cycle of a plant. When a plant stops growing and all activities of life gradually comes to an end, even after the availability of all the necessary conditions, the plant is considered dead. Page 196. At the top of the page is an image showing the life cycle of a bean plant. The first stage is the seed stage. The second stage is that of seed germination. The third stage is that of appearance of leaves. The fourth stage is the appearance of flowers. Stage 5, appearance of fruits. The fruits can then become seeds further or the plant can die. Section 10.5, Life Cycle of Animals. We have learnt about the life cycle of a plant. We have seen that a plant goes through many changes in its life cycle. Have you ever observed how plants grow over time? Draw sketches of their young ones and name them. 10.5.1, Life Cycle of a Mosquito. Mosquitoes buzzing around is a common experience for all of us. Female mosquitoes are blood-sucking insects that transmit several diseases like malaria, dengue, and chikungunya. You may have learnt from newspapers, school notice boards, or awareness campaigns that mosquito breeding should be prevented. We are advised not to allow water to stagnate anywhere in our surroundings. Why is it so? Does stagnant water have any relationship with mosquitoes laying eggs? Page 197. Conduct a safety audit in your school and at your home and surroundings to check for stagnant water. If available, carry a hand lens to observe small creatures. Some common places where stagnant water is likely to gather are desert coolers, planted pots, or any open containers. You may find two different types of worm like creatures. They are larva and pupa, two distinct life stages during the development of mosquitoes. In case you observe larva and pupa, report to your teacher. Discuss with the teacher and classmates about the necessary measures one can take to prevent breeding of mosquitoes. What differences do you observe in the shape of a larva and pupa? At the center of the page is an image showing larva and pupa of mosquitoes in a stagnant water body. Mosquito larvae and pupa observed in water bodies repeatedly come to the water surface. What can be the reason for this? Mosquito larvae and pupa live in water and require air to respire. They move to the surface of the water for air. At the bottom of the page is a question box. How can the life cycle of a mosquito be disrupted? Ayush asks, I have seen my mother spraying kerosene oil on stagnant water. Why does she do so? Avdi replies, kerosene oil forms a thin layer over the water surface. This layer separates water from air and does not allow larvae and pupa to inhale air. As a result, they die. Page 198. Activity 10.5. Let us analyze. Let us solve an interesting puzzle. How will you decide which stage, larva or pupa, comes immediately after the egg stage? Suppose you are given a container with water from a puddle containing larva and pupa. Design an activity to find out the correct sequence of these stages. You can take the help of the following activity designed by Avadhi to create your own activity. On the left side of the page is an image of Avadhi who is sharing her activity and telling us, my design is. Step 1. I have a water container with mosquito larva and pupa. Step 2. I will separate 4 or 5 larva and pupa into 2 separate containers with the same water. Step 3. I will observe them every day until I see them changing into the next stage. Step 4. If the larva change into pupa, it would mean the larval stage comes before the pupal stage or vice versa. Step 5. I will keep watching both the containers to see in which one a mosquito appears first. These observations will help us to learn the correct sequence of growth. Now, suppose you are given a container filled with water from a puddle which contains larva and pupa. Without separating them from the container, how will you design an activity to decide which stage out of the two gives way to the next? At the bottom of the page is an image showing the life cycle of a mosquito. Stage 1 is egg, stage 2 is larva, stage 3 is pupa, and stage 4 is that of the adult mosquito. Page 199. Let us learn more about the stages in the life cycle of a mosquito. Mosquitoes pass through 4 stages in their life cycle: egg, larva, pupa, and adult. The adult mosquito that emerges from the pupa rests briefly on the surface of water and then flies away. The adult mosquito may survive for 10 to 15 days. We have seen that a mosquito begins its life as an egg, stage 1. The egg develops into a larva, stage 2. The larva grows into a pupa, stage 3. The pupa transforms into an adult mosquito, stage 4. The adult female mosquito lays eggs directly on or near water and the cycle continues. Significant changes occur in the appearance, body shape, and structure during the various stages in the life cycle of a mosquito. The shape of the egg is quite different from that of the larva. The larva appears very different from the pupa. The pupa appears very distinct from the adult mosquito. Is it easy to imagine that a mosquito emerges from a pupa? At the bottom of the page is a box that says, do you know? The silk moth also passes through 4 stages: egg, larva, pupa, and adult. Eggs hatch into larvae, which then grow in size. Larvae secrete thread-like material which they wrap around themselves before changing into pupa. These are the fibers that are used to make silk fabric. In India, the Khadi and Village Industries Commission KVIC has set up several centers for silk production. Section 10.5.2 Life Cycle of a Frog. Activity 10.6 Let us analyze. Avadi and Ayush are dressed up in full sleeves shirts and full pants today. It has been raining intermittently for a week. They are going out with their classmates for an activity. After a brief walk, led by their science teacher, they reach a shallow pond. It is surrounded by trees and tall grasses. The teacher cautions them to watch everything from a distance without causing any disturbance. Page 200. You may also go to a small water body during the rainy season with a facilitator and explore it by taking due safety precautions. You may notice a white jelly like substance on the surface of water towards the edge of the pond. This may also be attached to plants growing in and around the water. This jelly like substance is actually a cluster of eggs of a frog and is known as a spawn. Observe the features of all the stages of a frog. How will you decide the sequence of the given stages? Some of the stages show distinct changes in their initial and final shapes. Record these changes in Table 10.5. Table 10.5 Changes in different stages of a frog. In this table, there are 6 columns A, B, C, D, E, F. Each column corresponds to the different stage of the life cycle of a frog in a pond. At the bottom of the page is an image that shows different stages of a frog in a pond in a jumbled sequence. Based on the observations listed in Table 10.5, draw the life cycle of a pond. Page 201. Some of the stages have been clubbed together. For example, stage A and F have been kept under stage 1. You will find 4 stages in the life cycle of a frog. The egg stage, which progresses to the embryo stage. The tadpole stage, consisting of an early stage with a tail and no legs, and a late stage with hind legs. The froglet stage and the adult frog stage. In the bottom of the page is the image showing the life cycle of a frog. In this image, stage 1A is the spawn stage on day 1. Stage 1B is the embryo stage that is visible at day 3 or 4. Stage 2A is the tadpole with a tail stage visible at day 7 to 10. Stage 2B is the tadpole with legs, which is visible between 8 to 10 weeks. Stage 3 is the froglet stage, which is visible at 12 weeks. And stage 4 is the adult frog, which is visible at 14 weeks. Discuss in the class along the following points. A. How do these eggs of a frog are different from the other eggs that you have seen? B. Which stage has the shortest duration? C. Is there a change in the habitat during the various stages in the life cycle of a frog? And D. How do the special features support that stage? You will see that the tadpoles develop legs but still have tails. Tails help them swim in water. Tadpoles grow gradually and start looking like little frogs called froglets. They still live in water but begin to spend some time on land. They continue to grow and lose their tails completely. Their legs become strong to help them jump and land. They become fully developed adult frogs living both in water and on land. Page 202. At the top of the page is an image where Ayush asks, do you think that birds also show significant changes in the various stages of their life cycle? Avadhi also asks, how does the life cycle of an animal differ from that of a plant? Plants and animals are a part of the living world. They go through the various changes during the course of their lives. We have learned that a tiny plant grows and develops into a big tree. We have also learned how animals grow and change from young ones to adults. This journey varies for each animal, making it unique and special. We have seen pupa change into insects and tadpoles change into frogs. Such changes are important for plants and animals to survive and maintain continuity of their kind. We should also take care of them and their homes. By nurturing and preserving their homes, we contribute to this flourishing living world. Keywords from this chapter: breathing, death, excretion, froglet, germination, growth, larva, life cycle, living, movement, non living, nutrition, pupa, reproduction, respiration, response, stimulus, tadpole, conclude, create, design, experiment, explore, identify, observation, prediction. Page 203. Summary and key points. 1. The objects around us can be categorized into two types: living and non living. 2. The essential features of living beings are that they move, eat, grow, breathe, excrete, respond to stimuli, reproduce, and die. Absence of any of these features indicate that they are not living beings. 3. Each living being goes through several stages during its life. 4. Germination of seeds depends upon the availability of water, air, suitable light and or dark conditions. 5. During germination of seeds, roots generally grow downwards while shoots grow upwards. 6. A plant's life cycle starts with seed germination, followed by several stages of its growth and development. These include flowering and seed production. Seed produced during their life cycle would germinate into a new plant and the cycle continues. 7. The life cycle of an animal as a result of reproduction begins with a newborn that undergoes various stages of growth and development, followed by an adult stage and finally death. The process of reproduction maintains the continuity of its kind. 8. Mosquitoes pass through the stages of egg, larva, pupa, and adult. The life stages of a frog include eggs, tadpoles, froglets, and adults. 9. In some living beings, such as mosquitoes and frogs, significant changes occur during the various stages of their life cycles. These changes can be seen in body shape, structure, and sometimes even in the habitat. Let us enhance our learning. Question 1. List the similarities and differences in life cycles of plants and animals. Question 2. The table on the page 204 shows some data. Study the data and try to find out examples appropriate for the conditions given in the second and third columns. If you think that an example for any of the conditions given below is not possible, explain why. Page 204. In the table given below, you need to use the conditions given and give suitable examples that fulfill the conditions. In the remarks column, share your justification of the examples given. Column 1, serial number. Column 2, does it grow? Column 3, does it respire? Column 4, example. And column 5 is the remark. Row 1, does it grow? No. Does it respire? No. You need to give an example and the remarks thereafter. Row 2. Does it grow? No. Does it respire? Yes. You need to give examples and remarks thereafter. Row 3. Does it grow? Yes. Does it respire? No. You need to give the examples and remarks thereafter. Row 4. Does it grow? Yes. Does it respire? Yes. You need to give the examples and remarks thereafter. Question 3. You have learned that different conditions are required for seed germination. How can we use this knowledge for proper storage of grains and pulses? Question 4. You have learned that a tail is present in a tadpole, but it disappears as it grows into a frog. What is the advantage of having a tail in the tadpole stage? Question 5. Charan says that a wooden log is non living as it cannot move. Charu counters it by saying that it is living because it is made of wood obtained from trees. Give your arguments in favor or against these two statements given by Charu and Charan. Question 6. What are the similarities and distinguishing features in the life cycles of a mosquito and a frog? Question 7. A plant is provided with all conditions suitable for its growth. On the left side of the page is an image of a pot kept along with the ground with a sapling growing horizontally. Draw what you expect to see in the shoot and the root of the plant after 1 week. Write down the reasons. Question 8. Tara and Vijay set up an experiment. On the left side of the page is the image of the experiment. In this experiment, in the first image, they show the seeds buried horizontally. In the second beaker, they bury the seeds in the soil vertically. In the third beaker, they place the seedlings on the top layer of the soil. What do you think they wanted to find out? How will they know if they are correct? Question 9. Design an experiment to check if temperature has an effect on seed germination. Page 205. Learning further. 1. Make a field trip to a local garden. Interact with a gardener to learn about various conditions and the time required for growth of various plants. 2. Can we grow plants without germinating their seeds? Explore and cite some examples. 3. Observe the life cycle of 5 plants grown at home, school, or in a nearby garden. Create a picture book containing pictures of various stages of their growth. Write the name of each plant and the duration of its stages. 4. Try and observe some of the stages in the life cycle of a butterfly or a moth. Are the stages similar to the stages in the life cycle of a mosquito? 6th, in your opinion, would the environment affect the life cycle of insects? Explore and list the factors that affect the life cycle of insects. Let us create. Add more lines to the incomplete poem given below. Include information on the different stages in development of a frog. You may also draw and paint each stage as it appears in your poem. In shaded and grassy bogs, there lived a group of frogs. They happily sang from dusk to dawn, in double bars going on and on. One day, sitting beside a reed, female frogs think it's time to breed. Complete the poem below. Chapter 10 ends here.
Curiosity. You were just listening to this audiobook, Textbook of Science for Class 6. Narration Dr. Pranita Gopal. Technical coordination Bati Langlingdo. Sound recordist Virendra Rawat. Assistance in production Muhammad Shamim Khan. Directed and produced by Vimalesh Chaudhary. This audiobook is brought to you by CIET NCERT, New Delhi, India.